Republican lawmakers are like 1970s computers. They don't got a lot of computing power. They don't have a lot of storage space. They're not good at a lot of things. And when you give them something that is novel, 99 times out of 100, they just break down. Today's video is brought to you by First Form. This is a pro-freedom supplement and nutrition company. And when I think of their products for you, I think of adding value to your life. And there is one product of theirs that I use more frequently than anything else that they make, and that is their meat sticks. They have these in approximately a 20 gram of protein stick. Think smoked meat. Doesn't need to be refrigerated. Eat it on the go when you get hungry. This channel is sponsored by them. I'm literally doing an ad for them right now, and I purchased these. So what I suggest you do is go down in the pinned comment, use the link that I have listed there. That is an affiliate link. It generates sales for the channel, and let them know that I sent you. Special thanks to First Form for making today's video possible. Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for tuning in, and I wanted to tell you that you're doing excellent work out there. I did a video a couple days ago about how some Republicans in the Ways and Means Committee are holding up 2 NFA dismantling bills. That may shock some of you, but most of you are switched on. Well, y'all have been blowing up the phones over there. So I wanted to do an update because I have received word that the phones are ringing off the hook over at the Ways and Means Committee, and this is not the time to let up. Let them feel it. Let them know it. And I've heard some people say, oh, well, you know, I keep getting the staff and they say, oh, well, you know, we just work here. Stop ringing our phones. No, absolutely not. You should contact your representative, whether they are on the Ways and Means Committee or not, because they talk. But you should continue to make sure that the phones at the Ways and Means Committee no longer work. Because if you think that the phone ringing off the hook in the lobby isn't disruptive to what they're doing, and that the people on that committee are not going to hear about it, then you're wrong. That said, in addition to the phone number for the Ways and Means Committee, I will also, in the pinned comment, and I did this in the previous video as well, put up the members page of the Ways and Means Committee so you can very quickly look up the members of the Ways and Means Committee so that you can contact those representatives directly. Make sure that they hear your voice, because I'm a little bit concerned about how this might play out. I think that with the response that they have received, they are hearing that they have to do something, but I'm concerned about what they might actually do, because we're talking about Republicans here. And real quick, I'm going to run you through what the 2 bills do, because I had a couple questions about that, even though we've covered both these bills ad nauseum at this point in time. First, the Hearing Protection Act. The Hearing Protection Act would relegate suppressors to the status of any other firearm. And before you guys break your keyboard or punch your fingers through your phone screen, I hear you. They should not be regulated whatsoever. They're an accessory. I hear you. However, in my opinion, to get these things off of the NFA registry, I think a progressive approach to deregulation of these things is an acceptable compromise. The NFA is a draconian, archaic, and outdated system that is very cumbersome to use, and it just doesn't work very well. It's been updated with like electronic inputs and stuff like that over the years, but you got to remember that this is a system that predates the national instant check system that we use for all firearms transfers in the United States by 60 years. It predates the creation of the first computer by a decade, more than a decade. It's absolutely ridiculous that we still use this system, and its destruction in a wave-wise fashion is something that I'm willing to accept. So bringing those things up to the modern age, I think, is a worthwhile endeavor. Instead of submitting fingerprints and a picture of yourself in a completely different form, why not just plug it into the existing system that already has a hardwire into the FBI? Like, I can input somebody's information into the NICS background check, push a button, and then refresh the page, and I get an answer back, versus this thing that takes months to handle. and a lot of manpower. It makes absolutely no sense.
When you talk about changing it, we had to do it through a regulatory process, not a statutory process, because we couldn't change the language of the statute, but we could redefine the terminology that's in the statute to make it fit today's standards.
That was swamp creature extraordinaire Marvin Richardson of the ATF, before he got fired, I might add, lauding how the NFA was abused by the ATF to infringe on the Second Amendment rights of American citizens and abuse them while they were minding their own business by the previous administration. The NFA absolutely has to go, and that's why I bring up the next portion, which is the Short Act. The purpose of the Short Act is to do basically the same thing with short-barreled rifles, short-barreled shotguns, and AOWs. Some of you may know this, some of you may not, but the original intent of the short-barreled provisions of the National Firearms Act were to target handguns, but they decided that was not politically expedient, so they basically created this weird class of things that were the short-barreled things, and actually the government screwed it up. That's why your shotgun is 18 inches and your rifle is 16 inches, because at first the government basically imported a whole bunch of stuff that was too short, and they're like, oh, crap, we got to cover CYA, and they shifted it around so that those rifles that the government sold to everybody would be legal and everything would be copacetic. But regardless, when the government screws it up, it's meh, oh, whoopsie daisy. But when you screw it up, you go to prison for 10 years. Yeah, a little bit of incongruency here. The purpose of the Short Act is to remove those devices from the National Firearms Act, remove the taxes on them, and treat them, again, like any other weapon out there. AOW, any other. Treat them like any other thing that you would like to purchase. NICS background check, 4473, out the door. Kurt, that all sounds fantastic. Let's spank those bills right out of this committee right now and get them to the House floor so they can be passed onto the Senate and get those things onto the president's desk, right? Yep. There's also talk about potentially reducing the cost of NFA transfers, because what would be left would be destructive devices and machine guns, reducing the NFA tax across the board to like $1 or something like that. And that's a great idea. I like that idea. However, I'm very concerned about this, because when you've got that in the room with everything else, with Republicans, I'll put it to you like this. We make fun of the left for being like the lizard people, and that has several connotations. You know, the one that I like the most is like lizard brains do nothing but autonomic functions and not even that very well. Like they can't even regulate their own body temperature. And I think the analogy there is pretty apt. Republicans are like 1970s computers. They don't got a lot of computing power. They don't have a lot of storage space. They're not good at a lot of things. And when you give them something that is novel, 99 times out of 100, they just break down. My concern with having reduced the tax in the room with Republicans is they're going to hear the word taxes, and they're going to be like, taxes? Taxes? I've heard that one before.
I know what to do. Taxes. We reduce tax. My constituents don't like taxes. 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 $199.99. We've reduced taxes. We did our job. What's next? Where's Jeffrey at? I have a flight cash to his island.
Oh, Kurt, they wouldn't do that. They couldn't possibly be that out of touch to think that they could just reduce the cost of the NFA tax and everybody will be happy and that'll be good enough. No, they absolutely could do that. I've been studying these people nearly my entire life at this point in time, and they are that out of touch that they could absolutely conceive, well, we reduced the cost of it, so we fixed the problem. Because you got to remember, these people do not have Second Amendment principles. They think that it's just the fact that you have to pay $200 for a thing. If that was the case, then there would be AOWs all over the place because they're $5 tax stamps. They don't conceive that it's not just the money. Yes, the tax is bad, but it's the infringement, not necessarily the tax. The tax, of course, is always bad. Taxes are always bad. But when it comes to the encroachment on our territory, when it comes to the sovereignty of the people and our God-given inalienable rights, the NFA is a structure that was ill-conceived by a bunch of fuddy idiots in the 1930s that has been built upon for decades. There is so much predicated on the NFA when it comes to compromising the rights of the people. This isn't hard to figure out. It's just less government. We want less government in this area. We sent them there to do less government, but somehow they keep missing the boat, and it gets muddled when you start mixing the law enforcement thing in there because they're just like, the people or the cops? Which one do we like more? We can't figure it out. So they end up doing nothing. And my concern is that you mix reduced taxes in there, and you're just going to get an overriding, like, broken system process going here, and they're just going to be like, yep, we did it. I'm concerned that they screw this up. And they screw it up in a big way because fundamentally they do not understand it. They do not understand you, and they do not understand me. And I know that all of you will not settle for such a thing. Get it out of here. The NFA has to go.